What's up, guys? This podcast is sponsored by Kayak, and that's yakattack.us. What Yakattack is the leader in the kayak fishing industry who specializes in kayak fishing rigging solutions. As kayak anglers themselves, they are tightly integrated into the sport of kayak fishing and acutely aware of what the sport needs. It all starts off with the gear track and/or the mighty mount. The gear track comes in all different sizes and colors, and the screwball that attaches to the gear track has everything that attaches to that. So you have this T-bolt that screws into the screwball, that everything attaches to that attaches to your boat, onto your tracks. And what that is a variety of rod holders and camera mounts for your still cameras and any GoPros. Light poles with the day flags that all folds into the flags. Your fish finder mounts and your black pack crate systems. All of Yakattack's products are made in the USA. A few years ago, Yakattack set the gold standard with kayak visibility with the VisiCarbon Pro. Fast forward to today, and it remains the most dependable light flag combo in the industry. Its 48-inch deployed height gets the flag and the light up where it can be seen, and the 14-inch collapse length allows you to stow it away easily when it's not in use. The high visibility flag doubles as a pouch, making it easy to pack away. The expectant lamp life of 10,000 plus hours of the ultra bright, high efficient LEDs, and at least 100 hours from the 3 AA batteries that are included. The carbon fiber mass is strong and lightweight, and the narrow profile offers low wind drag. The soft foam keeps it afloat and fits into most rod holders, available in an array of mounting options that fits into just about all boats and popular mounts. Don't compromise with safety. Depend on what tens of thousands of other paddlers trust. There is only one VisiCarbon Pro. And that's the VisiCarbon Pro from Yakattack at yakattack.us. This podcast is also sponsored by my DVDs at kayakkevin.com. The Kayak Fishing Chesapeake Bay series and the Bay Tour DVD. The fishing DVDs are broken up into a trilogy. Number 1 is the intro into the fishery. It has a full year's worth of footage from more of the larger fish that we target in the lower Chesapeake Bay. The instructional sequels are broken up into 2 parts, the warm water and the cold water species. Number 2 is the warm water species with detailed instruction on the rigs and the fishery itself, spanning from the red drum at the shoal, flounder, and the summer species at the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, and sight casting the red drum and the striper. Number 3 is the cold water species with detailed instruction on the winter targets, tautog, and the eastern shore striper fishery. The Chesapeake Bay Tour DVD is a 6-week, 600-mile tour I did in 2010 around the Chesapeake Bay, filmed in kind of a Survivor Man style, showing everything I do and look for when I am on a long-distance tour. All of these DVDs are available at kayakkevin.com. kayakkevin.com and yakattack.us. This podcast is the first of a series of podcasts I'm going to do. This is a 10-year anniversary of my Florida tour. In 2005, I did 1,800 miles from Pensacola, Florida, back home to Virginia, and this is the 10-year anniversary. I have my maps and my notebooks I did from the tour itself. And so I'm going over that and kind of reliving and looking at the Google Maps and reliving what I went over and what I did on that tour. So it's gonna be interesting. This is the I'm gonna do it in parts. It might take me a while to do it. Probably gonna do 2-week increments and go over in detail what every day was like. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. And here's the Kayak Kevin podcast, the Florida tour editions, I guess it would be called. Alrighty, what's up, y'all? This is podcast number 53. It is May 15th, 2015, and this is the Florida tour podcast part 2. This is the Big Bend area. This is Florida, right? You got Florida. This is the Big Bend area right through here. So last time we left off, I was right up here at the top, the St. Mark's area, just on my first camping day out. So before I get to that, I do want to answer some of the questions that are on Facebook. Chris asked, when I mentioned that I got into kayaking for the touring, fishing came later. Well, kind of at the same time. Be interested in hearing the reasons why the choice of kayaks. Sit on top of or on top of traditional touring kayaks, or the pros and cons of each. First, I wanted to sit on top. I already knew I was a little claustrophobic for a sit inside. I never even been in a sit inside at that point. But I've canoed with my dad, so I knew I just wanted an open area, an open cockpit, and those were just coming out at the time. 2001 is when I started looking, and I found the Manta in the catalog, the Ocean Kayak catalog, and that was a true sit-on-top touring. It had 2 hatches, so that made it a touring kayak because you had access to both sides. And it's a sit-on-top, and this one actually had a cockpit. The old catalog, if you can see it, it's got a little cockpit thing down here on the bottom that covers up the area there. But it's yeah, that was one of the first ones, and it was between this one and the Tarpon 160 at the time. Had just made, the last year before they made the 160s with the tank well on the back. The 160s had a hatch in the back also at that time, and it was a choice between those two because I knew I didn't want to sit inside. And the whole reason was it wasn't about speed. I wasn't trying to go fast on a tour. I wasn't trying to cover distance and time. It was more about spending time out there. So I didn't care about going fast, but I did care about being able to carry a lot with me, being able to stay out for a long time, and just really more about the time on the water. So it was between the Manta and the 160, and when it really came down to it, the Ocean Kayak had more room inside, and that was where I went with that one. It looked like it was a little bit more, had more of a rocker on the nose, so it looked like it would take a little bit more waves than the Tarpon 160 at that time. This is 2001 when this was. So that was the reason why I chose these kayaks, and that was the reason why I chose the Manta. And one of the Manta, it has a bow flare on it. You can't see it, but in some of the pictures you can see it. It has a bow flare on it, which made it called the Manta. It was extreme bow flare, really stuck out really far, and that was effective. It wasn't, it was meant for to block the waves. It worked fairly well. It wasn't a big deal. It could have been with or without it. It didn't mean it helped it any, but it was kind of cool to grab onto when I was trying to pull it and move it. So that did actually work pretty well for me. Turn this off. So yeah, that was that one. That was that for the sit on top kayak. Joshua asked if I could do it in a different way. Would I, and what would I have done differently? The only thing now, I would take video cameras and digital cameras. Everything was done with a 35mm, and I didn't have video then. Yeah, because I still tour the same way. the last tour I went on around the bay, it's the same way. Still using the same boat. That boat's got over 3,000 miles on it. At this point, it's retired now. But it's a different boat. Yeah, I would use a different boat. I would use the Trident 15, which I camp out of now. That's what I'm using when I camp. Yeah, I still wouldn't use the GPS. I still don't use the GPS. I'll still use these maps. I'd still be using these, and I'd still be using a compass, and it wouldn't be any. I wouldn't do any different in that way. On this tour, I guess I would spend more time on the outside on the Gulf. When I did the Panhandle side, I would have spent more time on the outside. I was more scared about how rough the water was going to be, and like the bay really gets angry when it blows 10 miles an hour or even starts to gust to 15. In this area, the Big Bend, you look in the charts, in the 3 mile line, everything has a nautical has a 3 mile line. It's 2-3 feet deep out 3 miles. So when it was blowing on me, headwinds and south winds, the waves were maybe 2 feet. So there wasn't any. I could paddle. It's just the wind would kick my ass, but I could still paddle in that. Way different than the bay or deeper water. So that was what was unique about this area. But I really would. I still do. I still camp the same way. I still when I do tours, or when the last time I've done tours, or when I'm out for days at a time, I still do it the same way. I'm a better fisherman now, and I would like to, fish those areas again and target more. I would, as I got going into the fishy areas, I would spend more time, but usually you're just in a roll on tour of moving forward, and that's usually kind of get going on that. And I would spend time fishing. I would intentionally do it. And you saw, if you got my Bay Tour DVD, I would spend some time just fishing, because if I'm either going to fish or I'm going to paddle that day. If I'm going to fish, I'm going to stop and I'm going to chill and take my time and actually fish. Or if I'm going to paddle that day, I'm going to try to get where I'm trying to get. But I wouldn't do anything different. I still paddle and still tour the same way. And still with the same equipment. Jacqueline Walker asked do I ever feel like giving up, and if so, what kept me going? What I think of that kept going. Never on tour did I feel like giving up. The only time I felt like what the fuck was I doing out here was on the very first tour, on about the second week, and that was the only time. And it was crazy because it wasn't even the second week. It was maybe about the 5th day. So because once I got past the second week, it was just normal. There's never the time of like I want to stop and go home. I'm out there for that reason. So there was, and I also go with the intention that I won't be coming back unless I am physically incapable of keep going, or I'm dead. And so that was the kind of the real pressure. And shit, I have a VHF radio, but I don't have, I didn't have a lot of stuff during this time. So in the VHF radio is only a few miles at a time. So it's, I'm, like I said, I was without a leash out there, and without a net, and there's no safety net for me out there when I was on this tour or in a lot of other tours. But there's never been a time that I've thought about stopping or giving up on a tour, no matter how many miles I've done. I've never been a time of that. Just that one time of like, what the fuck was I doing? And that was real early on the very first tour, and I never had that again. I've been almost, even the times when I've been I've been close to getting killed and out there, and there's still not a time I want to go home. I just know I have to get through it, because I know I could get through it, and if I could get through it, I could keep on going. And it's crazy, like when you go through a sketchy situation and you don't go home, you're still out there, and you wake up on the island and you're still sketched out from the day before. It's you get a little shock from it. But there's one time on this one that I got real close, and that's coming up here soon. But storms, yeah. But no, there's never a time that I would feel like I was going to give up. All right. So I camped out. Here is the Coast Guard station right here at St. Mark's. I went around the corner and found just a marshy, grassy area. Now, I entered this area with a lot of anxiety, because this is my first open water of this tour. There was no inside here, so it was all open water. So there was no safety net of going on the inside on the intercoastal, like the Panhandle, or as I get down to Tampa, or Tampa area, or the complete East Coast. I stayed on side in the East Coast, but it was scary to me. But like I said before, there was 3 miles of shallow water. So no matter how bad the wind was going to blow, it wasn't going to be overhead swells right in this area. So I learned that as I got going. But the area, there is no beaches here. This is all like just marsh grass, the whole area. So as I'm paddling along, I'm going, oh shit, where am I going to be able to camp? Where am I going to be able to camp? So I'm paddling along, and I come to the Incomfina River, and there's a boat ramp in here, and there's imagine a store. So I just, to get out this area, I just went in here. just to fill up waters and I think I didn't get waters at the one, so I'm always just trying to top off my water bottles when I'm on tour. Yeah, and the thing about this marsh grass, it's also really pointy. It's got all these points to it. It's not just like your regular marsh, really stab you. And the first night when I camped out over here, when I got on the Big Bend after St. Mark's, it was sticking me everywhere. I was scared I was actually going to get stuck in the eye. So I was wanting to just kind of get out of this area I didn't want to camp in the marsh. I could if I needed to, but I didn't want to. So I went inside Inconfino River, went in here, and I got some food. I went to the store, and on the way out, I came and I found the little spot that looked like the locals had, cleared out a little piece of woods, and that's where they hang out. So I camped there for the night, and later, as Josh Tart went on his tour through this area, he camped in the same spot. So I saw his picture. I was like, oh shit, I camped there. But it was right. I think it was right here. Right on the outside edge of the woods. And it was kind of wild because I was basically in the edge of the woods in the jungle down there, and it was some jungly area. So it was kind of. I felt good being there. I felt like I was out in the middle of nowhere, and it was felt good because I had been in such populated areas and on the Panhandle in ditches, and this was a natural area, and I felt like I was in the jungle. The next day, I just did a short run. I had headwinds, 5 to 10 mile an hour headwinds, so it wasn't bad, but just kind of trudging along. And when I was at oh, that's him right there. It wasn't far along. I didn't go far at all. I think about 10 miles, maybe, if that, maybe 8. When I was at Apalachicola, a guy named Grayson was there, and he told me about this place, Rock Island. He said it's a really good spot, and I have to go camp out on it. I probably could have made it there the night before, but I just wasn't sure. They had a little bit of headwinds that day, so I didn't want to push it. So I just came out here, and these are Rock Islands, and so I'm in a different environment now. I went from regular kind of beach area, and now sand from the Panhandle. And now I'm in this island. It looks like sand here on this picture, but it's solid rock. It almost reminded me of Okinawa, in the volcanic rock out there, but it wasn't volcanic rock, but I think it was sandstone. But it was really jagged, and it was tough to walk on. Some of it was smooth, and some of the people had carved a lot of stuff on it. See, all this is rock. It's all rock surrounding this whole island. And it was pretty neat. I walked around, got to hang out there for the day. And the way he was explaining to me, he was this area was a sacred spot, and of course to the Indians, any spot that the saltwater and the freshwater mix is a sacred spot. So these Rock Islands were also a sacred spot. Also a camp out later on near another Indian sacred spot that I found out later. I wish I had known it was when I was there on this part. So the next day, let's find. So I camped there, and here I had a no-seam incident. No-seams, mosquitoes weren't bad on the Big Bend. The no-seams were the worst things on the Big Bend area. It was, there were so many of them that where the zippers of my tent, so my door comes, where my two zippers come together, right? That little gap between where the two zippers come together was big enough for the no-seams to get through eventually. When there's a million of them surrounding your tents, some of them are going to find their way through. So before the sun rises in the morning, I'm covered up with about 50, 60 no-seams. So I've got to wake up and kill all these no-seams inside. But eventually, what I did, I figured out that night to figure this out, was take some duct tape and do it backwards, roll it backwards and stick it in between there, and that keeps them out. And I had to do that with all my tent spots. So even there was a tent. All the zipper spots. So there was a zipper spot right above where I could go up and open the vent of the rainfly. So I had to duct tape that one down. And any little holes in my tent, little holes, even if my screens on my tent was like pushed, they could get through there. So I had to duct tape those pieces up. Just ferocious no-see-ums in that area. So that's where I had to learn the duct tape secrets. So what I did from then on is I had my flashlight that stays in my bedroll. I'd have some duct tape taped on that, so I could have some duct tape inside without having to go outside of the tent. So the next day I launch again with headwinds. This segment of the Big Bend was really plagued by headwinds, and it wasn't rough. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't like I was getting beat by waves, but it was just a steady headwinds. And if you see my ears, you see me, my ears are small, but they stick out. They stick out really hard like this, so they just cup the wind. So all I'm hearing is all day long, and it started driving me crazy. I stopped here at Deckle Beach just to see if there's a store again, just to top off the waters, just to stop, just to take a break there in the middle of the day, because the winds were just beating me, and it was just like, there was no stores. I didn't see any stores around there, and I've been walking since I stopped and just kind of looked and said, oh fuck it, I'll just keep on going, and into the wind. And from I was starting to I was through here. I was just like barking at the wind. I was getting mad at the wind, and just chewing at it as I was paddling through it. I was just angry with it. It was a really big pain in the ass. It really just would beat at me. Not so much physically, but just mentally. So that was my first kind of breaking moment I had on the tours with this fucking wind. Right south of that, I think it's right here. Yeah. Yep. So on tour, when you get your ass kicked during the day, if you can just keep on going through the day, usually you would get rewarded with a beautiful beach. And this was one of them. Sponge Point was really cool. Is it this one, or is it this one? That's this one. Yeah, this was a really cool spot. Nice beachy area, not rocky. It's a natural, real beach, palm trees. It was a really awesome spot. I camped there for the night, and there was a lot of wind that day too. By the end of the day, I was getting beat in the face with 15-mile-an-hour headwinds. I landed and watched the dragonflies fly around in that wind, which was impressive because I can barely move in that wind, and they're navigating them in that wind. The next day, it started off pretty windy, but from the west, I have it marked down here on every day. I have my winds marked down. So I have a westerly wind, and it's blowing pretty hard, but it's slightly from my west, or from the side, so it's not my face. So it doesn't matter. I'm kind of good with that. I cut inside here, and you can see the channels right along here. Yep, this channel that comes out of here. As I was paddling along, there's a lot of people fishing, and I stopped and watched them. Watched what they were throwing. They were throwing the white with the red tails. And there's something about this water. It wasn't really super clear as you would think of, like, the Gulf of Florida. It was really, or the Gulf waters in Florida. It was kind of darker. It wasn't super clear. It was kind of dark, but you could see in it, but it was just dark. So I think it was all that freshwater influence, maybe. That would darken it up. But I was seeing all these people fishing around this. I wonder if I can zoom in and still be there. Yep. I seen all these people fishing on this area, and I could see that there's a few channel markers sticking up. The PVC pipes locals would post in. So I stopped and I would fish a little, and I fished a little bit right along here, and that was pretty good because I caught some trout and some ladyfish, and that was a lot of fun for me. Then I came in, and as I'm paddling in, there's people stopping and they're talking to me, and let's see. And fish for trout, and then I met the Griffiths on the boat, and they gave me a beer. As I'm going into Steenhatchee, and they told me about a campsite in there that had room, and I could set up, do all my weekly stuff, laundry, stores, all that good stuff. And as I landed, they took me to the store, which was pretty far, so I'm glad they did. Let's see if I can zoom in and find it. It's probably not here anymore. Yeah, I don't even. I think it was. Might have been right here. Shit, I don't even know now. When I was there, that was the last year that campground was going to be open, and they were going to sell it and make a. Might have been in here. Might have been somewhere in here. It's not there anymore. This might be it right here. Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah, I think that is it. But now it's not a campground anymore. But that's where I camped that night, and hung out with a lot of cool people. You know, that ate some grouper that they caught out there, and yeah, that's when the first time I realized that the people in Florida eat Jack Crevalles. They had some Jacks, and I didn't eat any of that. I just stayed with the grouper. And went to the store, did my laundry, showered, all that good stuff. Made my phone calls, and yeah, all that. The next day, paddled on out, and for the first time, I had a tailwind in a couple of days, so I was pretty happy. And the water was getting a little clearer as I was getting through here. I stayed closer to shoreline as I paddled, came out south. I was paddling down, and I came up to these islands here, and these things were full of birds. They look like great islands. They look like I had a beach on it and everything. I mean, that looks like a really good island, but just filled with egrets and birds, and you don't want to camp on any bird islands. They stink, disease. They're noisy as shit all night, all night long. So it's just gonna be, pain in the ass. But yeah, so I bypassed there and kept on moving to the next point, which was Horseshoe Point. So from there, paddling through, and I left pretty late from Steenhatchee, and it was pretty shallow, really shallow through here. It was getting low tide, so I had to actually kind of come out. The crab pots were even starting to be exposed, so I was starting to get really starting to scrape bottom a little bit. So I came outside and I was looking at these spoil islands here that didn't look good. I ended up camping on this one here, which is a pain in the ass. Really rocky shoreline, shelly shoreline, a lot of shells, oyster shells. And so I had to pull up into the beach, and it was kind of populated area. There's a lot of people around. Didn't like that too much as with people around to camp out. This one had a house on it, so I stayed here, and just the crab pots were just out of the water by the time there was no water anywhere through here. By the time it got dark, the next day, tailwinds again, and I was real stoked about that. And a real good tailwind by the time. So as I'm going, I have also my track on here, and with the tailwind, the first days it was kind of, I was creeping along the shoreline, but as with the tailwind, I could really just kind of point to point. Yeah, so from here, I was just going, I was basically going where I could see. So I could see trees here, and I was paddling to here, and then I was going to paddle to here. So I was just going straight line, and I had, a great tailwind through this, and just able to move. So I came out and just beelined straight for these trees where I could see right here. Is that Little Pine Island? Oh, right here, a little cat island. I stopped there. Excuse me. I stopped there, and this was a beautiful spot. Look at the palm trees. You can see the shadow of the palm trees, how tall they were. I took a picture. It was awesome, and it looked like a great camp. But I had a tailwind. It was midday, and I still wanted to keep going. That's another thing. I could have stopped and enjoyed myself, but I had a tailwind, and you can paddle a million days, and as soon as you get a tailwind day with a solid tailwind, open water, and it's the best thing to paddle in. So no matter what, I just wanted to go, and I took a picture, stopped right there, ate lunch, and moved. Came out and just kind of looked through here, and I said, all right, I'm getting back out again, and came way back outside and beeline for the next trees I could see. I could see these trees, and I could see this, and so I'm just like cruising, and I could see this beach on my charts. I could see, of course you can't see beaches on a chart. Now remember, I didn't have a computer back then, so I didn't even have access to this. But I could see that there was hard land. There was a hook, so that was also a good shape. Any kind of spit is a good thing. I could see there was a hook. I could see there was deep water in dry land with trees on it on the charts. So that's what I was looking for, and I could see that as I'm cruising. That's let's see, that's 5 miles. When I launch, okay, that's 9 miles away from here to here. Yeah, so when I came out of here, that was 9 miles paddle around through here. I think, if I'm reading that right. 5 miles, yeah. So as I get closer to it, it's looking better and better as I'm getting closer to it. And I'm getting pretty happy with it. And as I land, it's a beautiful beach. And this is the beach, Deer Island. This is the beach that I posted the picture up on Facebook. That I'm using for this. But love this beach. And I ended up camping here for 2 days. It was windy. It was forecasted wind the next day, and I was just pinned down. I mean, it was blowing 20 that next day, and I was just stuck. And perfect beach to be stuck on. It was beautiful. I loved it. And like that was the type of thing I'm looking for when I was in Florida. And come to find out, this right here, okay, here's where I camped, and right here is a boat ramp, and didn't know this then. And right here is a place called Shell Mound, which is a huge shell mound built by the Indians, so it's an Indian sacred spot. So I was right close to that. So I definitely, had a good area here that I spent 2 days on, and spent a day of solitude there. Just the wind was blowing. I just hung out in the tent and rested because of the paddling, and just rested, let my body recover, and just took the day off. And I remember the cicadas were so fucking loud that I have tinnitus from my music days, and the cicadas hit a certain frequency. They kept charging off my tinnitus, so it started messing with my ears a little bit. But that was a good day. Next day, I had a little bit of tailwind, and it turned it into a headwind. But this is Cedar Key, so I was right close to Cedar Key. I paddled around, and all this stuff really looked good. A lot of shells through here. As I came through this area, I actually saw another kayak fisherman in there, so I was pretty happy just to see that. I was just like, the first time I've seen another kayaker in weeks, it felt like. As I came around, and I came in, saw a lot of dolphins too here. I saw a dolphin with a little curved dorsal fin. Came into, right here at the beach. Landed right here. There was a tackle shop, I think, right here, so I went right there. There was another little store right here, and I got a Philly cheesesteak. Just kind of, just explored, walked around a little bit. Felt like my boat was pretty safe right there. There was lifeguards there. And then that night, I paddled out and went over here to these reefs. A guy was telling me about them there. It's an oyster reef, and on top of it, the dead oyster shells have been washed over top of the oyster reef and just piled up. So it's out of the water, out of high tide islands, straight shell islands. No barefoot walking on this. I mean, it looks like sand, but that's all oysters and piled up on top of each other, and actually starting to get vegetation growing on the things. But look at that. All of this is a maze of oyster shells. And as I was paddling over to it, right through here, I saw some reds tailing, and it looked like a pretty decent size. So I made some casts. I was like, okay, this is a fishy spot, so I'm gonna stop here and hang out here for a while. End up camping on this and just seeing red tails and casting at them all night long. And that next morning, I'm sitting there just kind of waiting for the tide to come up, so I was gonna go back into town, get another Philly cheesesteak, and then paddle out and fish around this area a little bit more. As I was sitting there, I heard a splash behind me. I'm just sitting on my chair, and I heard a splash behind me. I look behind me, and there's a black drum rooting down into the oyster shells. And so I have my 17-pound test ugly stick spinning rod, and I had a DOA shrimp on it. And as he's rooting, I get up and I try not to make any noise. He's right at my feet basically, and I cast the shrimp in right close to him, and he turns near it, and I just make a little twitch. I just twitch it a little bit, and he grabs onto it, and I hook him. And so I've got a 40-inch black drum fighting it from the shore over top of oyster shells everywhere, and I make it. I get it in, and I've got the picture on the website. And that was at that point, that was the biggest fish I ever caught. It was about 40. I think it was. I measured it out and then measured it out. Measured it out on my paddle, marked it, and then measured it out later. So it's not super accurate, but it was still the biggest fish I caught. Before that, my biggest fish was a 32-inch striper. So a 40-inch black drum, not from the kayak, but from shore, but it's still a pretty good feat. So I was so stoked on that, I realized I needed some bigger tackle. So I paddled back into Cedar Key, another Philly cheesesteak, and got my first baitcaster rod. Rick had always told me before I went on tour, I'm gonna have to start learning baitcaster, and I figured this is the best time to do it. No one's around. I'm by myself. I can figure it out myself. The first cast I made blew up. Blew all the bird nested and lost half of the line. So that was a good experience right there. So I camped there for another night, and the next day I'm heading east into the headwinds again. So the headwinds have started up again. Paddle east through here, and as I turn south, I'm noticing that this is all marsh grass. Right? This is all marsh grass. That's all marsh. And as I turn this corner, start to see mangrove shoots start to happen. They're starting to the vegetation is starting to change. I'm actually kind of like past the line, and I'm starting to see mangroves through here. So that was another. Now I'm paddling into a different environment. So right here from this line across the state, and I noticed it as I got to the other side from here to Daytona. Here's Daytona. Is this? Daytona Beach, I think was the line. Yes, Daytona Beach. That's Ormond Beach. Yeah, Daytona. So right here, across, right here to here, across the state, was where the mangroves started down through here. So as I'm paddling down, it's become more and more mangrove. Like a lot more mangrove. Okay. Oh, come on. Is that going to show me that? Come on. Oof. Alright. This is the best I'm going to get. I camped on this island right there. Can't really zoom in on it too well. But right through here, so I'm paddling around, see, look, mangroves. Becoming mangroves all through here. And all of a sudden now it's full-blown mangroves. So it went from marsh grass to mangroves in one day, from here to here, within 10 miles. Marsh grass to mangroves. Right here's where the mangroves start. And I get around this corner. Right here's, I see a rip. I see a good rip off a point where it's coming out really good and the current's ripping off of it. I think I had a spoon on the bait caster, and I make a cast, and as soon as that thing hits and I start to reel, it goes wham, just yank it, and the tarpon goes flying out and throws the hook. About a 30-40 inch tarpon. So I'm like, holy shit, I just hooked a tarpon. As soon as I got the mangroves, I hooked a tarpon. I haven't even hooked a snook yet, but I just hooked a tarpon. So I made some more casts there. I think I caught some reds right there at that area. Then went to Porpoise Point and made sure that was a good camp spot. Checked it out above high tide. Everything was good to go. Went back and just try to make some more casts again because I was really stoked about that tarpon shit. That's why I'm, one of the reasons why I couldn't leave Florida without a tarpon picture. So, and then I went back and camped out, and this was a really cool spot. I think I have it on the website. I should bring that shit up. This is Sponge Point. This is Rock Island. This is Steenhatchee. This is Deer Island, the picture I just posted up. Here's the Black Drum. And this is Porpoise Point. I mean, the water came up right here at high tide. I was really on such a small island. It's my own little teeny island right there. Awesome. Loved it. Next day I head south. Headwinds, of course. Now the whole time from Cedar Key, I could see the power plant, or the nuke plant right here. So you got the nuclear towers right here. I could see that for the whole couple days outside of that. Camped here, come around. I'm going into Crystal River. So come around these spoil islands. There's people all over them, fishing. This area looks really good. I got to come way the fuck out here. See, was it right through here? Yeah, made through this cut, came around this corner, and as I'm paddling in, I come across these little oyster reefs here. These are all oyster reefs out there. It's a pretty badass area. I mean, there's all of a sudden there's just hard structure, and I'm jigging. I just let it drop down because it drops down hard as shit from 0 feet of water down to, I don't know, it was 20 feet, and I'm jigging, just these holes, and I'm jigging down and I hook a grouper, and I hook something hard. I reel it up and I can see it. It's a grouper and it takes off and it pulls the hook. So that was pretty neat that I hooked onto that. Really shallow through here, but just in these big holes right by these oyster reefs. I imagine it wasn't 20 feet, but it sure felt like it was deeper than I could see. And this is getting clearer water now too. It's starting to get really clear water through here. Go into Crystal River and it's fucking crowded. I think I was there on a weekend, which I'd never like going into civilized areas on a weekend. Went to a campsite in here. Let's see, where is it? I didn't even go that far in. Maybe I did. Shit. Wait, this is the campground. Maybe this not a boat ramp. This was the campground. Yeah, this was it. Okay. This was it. I came in here, paddled into this area, got to the campground, did laundry, but there were so many people and it was almost confusing and almost shocking to be around that many people after not being around anybody for so long that I forgot to take a shower. I hadn't taken a shower for a week, and it was I just totally forgot to take a shower. I just got my shit, hit with a little bit of store, did all my laundry and got the fuck out of there. Came right out here to this point and just camped out here because it was getting late anyway. So saw a lot of fucking gators in here too, camping out right here. A lot of mosquitoes in this area. The next day, I said, okay, I've been outside, paddling outside areas for a while. Let's play around. There's this Salt River area called Salt River Paddleway. So it's like, cool. It's got signs on it. They had a brochure about it. It's the area attraction to paddle. So I paddled inside there, and fuck, it was pretty cool. It's really wilderly, out in the middle of nowhere. But you know, there's people around and stuff. It wasn't that secluded, but it was just kind of long, and you know, all through here, and as I came out, this, you know, all through here. As I came out, what I was trying to do is to get to the outside, but I was really trying to get to the furthest outside. I was trying to get to this point here, because I figured this was going to have beach on it because it was the furthest point out. Because there wasn't a lot of beach in here. There was places to camp somewhat, but it wasn't any beach. So when I came through right about here, I couldn't tell which way the path was going, because one, I didn't want to get caught up in the shallow water where the tide was going out. I wanted to make sure I stayed on the pathway to make sure it was deep enough channel. I ended up just getting frustrated and camping out right here. There was some people that came up and just wanted to have their picnic, so I hung out with them. He was actually from this area, which was named Rebel, and he was from Hermosa, this was his whole backyard. So he told me about the area, and it was pretty nice. Had a hamburger and a beer with them, so that was nice. The next day I paddled. I just came out. Came out and back around, and I saw this and I was like, oh shit, I wasn't really that campable anyway. I mean, figure it was gonna be an outside. More headwinds, 5 to 10, just annoying all day long. Came in looking for, by the end of the day, I was looking for a campsite. Saw a beach way inside here, but it was like, I didn't like it all that much. It was kind of hard to deal with. I paddled around. It's kind of a little resort area. They had a little park, little tiki bar type of area, nice little beach. And so I stopped right there and had some cheese sticks and some lemonade. And on the way over, I saw that this looked like a campground, but it wasn't. Didn't have anybody on it. So I came back and I stopped. Right here's a boat ramp, and I just stopped on the boat ramp and just kind of went up and walked around. And there was a fire that was still warm, and there was recent tracks hadn't been rained on. There was some recent tracks there, so I knew it had been used recently. But it was getting late in the day and there was nobody there, so I just camped out. Later I saw that that evening, a kayaker was coming by, and he stopped and talked to me, and he said that these people they own this whole property and they use it as their own RV park. So they had been camping there for the weekend. They're gone. It was a Monday. They're gone for the Monday, and so I was in a pretty safe spot. No one around, populated area, nobody kind of fucking with me. I was kind of good. The next day there was a storm that came through, nearly blew my tent down. I was a little worried about the trees. This squall that came through, and then the next day it blew again, and so I was stopped. I had basically stopped there again, down for another day, really kind of conserving my food at this point, because I didn't really have a big store to really choose from at Crystal River, and I didn't know how long before I could get to another store. So really rationing my food that day. The next day I was able to leave, still 10-mile-an-hour headwinds, and it wasn't again headwinds again. Headwinds were what happened, were basically what was really happening this whole Big Bend area. Beating my ass off the whole Big Bend area. Headwinds. I stop into here to kind of see if there's a little store, any little tackle shop. I got some more. I got some more plastics. Trout and stuff would chew them up pretty well. And yeah, and this was an interesting spot. Right here, Horse Island. Paddling around, didn't see nothing. It was like I was getting really desperate too. I didn't expect these mangroves to be on rock, and there hardly be any beaches there anywhere. I mean, none of this shit was, it was tough to camp on. It was, I'd rather have marsh grass to camp on. It was really tough to find a spot that wasn't, you know, mangroved up and rocky. So I'm getting really fucking worried as I'm paddling through here going, I'm not going to find a spot to camp, because this is the last little bit of civilization, last little bit of shoreline before it goes city. You know, there's all kinds of fucking people around here. So I'm like, oh shit, man. I'm cutting in here, looking all through this area, and I come across this little area here, and there's a little gap. There's a little gap. My tent's in there, but all I see is this little gap, this little thing right here, and it's open in here. And I go in, and it's wide open. People had opened this spot up and made a nice little spot inside the island itself. So you can't really see it from the top, but it's right inside here. There's the gap. So, whew, you know, saved. You know, again, just trying to not freak out. And you know, if you don't freak out, you know, shit will happen, and you'll find a spot. Luckily, and you know, this was a cool spot, really cool spot. I was really thankful to find this spot, or you know, it to open up for me. The next day, oh, I didn't stop in there. Next day, I didn't stop in there. I stopped into this spot, and this is the spot I went in and got some tackle. And asked some people, asked them about the area. So they're right in here, Hudson Creek. Stopped right in here. Just got some stuff, basic tackle, got a soda or whatever. Kept on going. Also, when I came through, I was looking for campground, because again, mangrove shoreline, not a lot of places to camp. Wasn't finding too much. So I came into Port Richey, and I thought there was a campground in here, but it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't a campground, so I just made some phone calls here and then paddled on out again. Now I'm getting 15-mile-an-hour headwinds, and it's starting to kick my ass again. I paddle hard. I paddled hard through this day to really get inside. I wanted to get inside here because the next day was going to be even. I knew it was going to be blowing. It was going to be blowing again. So I came inside. It was fucking blowing 20 by the time I got in here. But all this is like, you know, grasses and really shallow water. I end up coming in here. Man, that looks a lot bigger than it did when I was here. And camping on this island here. Yeah, so that was really good. That was a really good spot. I was really happy about that spot, because as I'm getting in here, I'm starting to see these spoil islands too, and I'm getting relieved that even though I'm in civilization, you know, I think these spoil islands are going to be a place that I can camp and not be fucked with. Because my whole thing when I'm camping, I don't want a place that is access to a road that anybody can come up behind me, anywhere that's on anybody's property, they can walk to me. Really want to be on an island or on a spit that's so far out in the marsh that you can't really get to me, but other by boat, and I can hear you coming, or I can hear a kayak coming, or at least you have to come at me from the front, from the beach. I don't want anybody to be coming from me from behind, from the woods or from the marsh. And so I was pretty happy about this. I'm in civilization. There's fucking people everywhere. Pretty happy of finding that. Pretty happy that I feel confident I'm going to be able to find that as I go. Next day, it's blowing its ass off, 20 miles an hour, and I just carved the shoreline. I just hugged this shoreline. No, actually, go through this little bridge. Yep, I was able to do that. People fishing through here. That was pretty cool. I felt like I was in Florida. It was pretty neat. Really carved the shoreline here. Did some casting around. Back at the Horse Island where that opening was, I saw my first snook. So I was really wanting to target snook at this point. I could see them. I think I stopped and I was brushing my teeth and I looked over and there's a snook sitting there about 20 inches just looking at me. So I know they're around. I'm starting to really trying to fish hard for them now, casting all these shorelines as I'm coming in. I knew there was a campground in here. I knew where I was going, so I didn't have far to go. It was a southeast wind, so it was coming off the shoreline. I didn't have a big issue with getting beat up by the wind, and I was just trying to explore a little bit. Seeing these spoil islands out here, making me feel good again. Trees on it, trees me solid ground, solid, good solid beach to land on, to be comfortable. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm happy about that. I'm paddling in, and there's a campground in here, and this is where I'm trying to get to, and this is my completion of the Big Bend, because from here on out, I have inside or outside Tampa area, inside, outside, all the way down to Naples. Then I'm outside again. But I'll stop here because I paddle into here. Ooh, that's not what I'm looking for. That's not it. Here it is. Sutherland Bayou. I paddle in, and oh yeah, I stopped. I haven't had a shower for 2 weeks at this point. I stop at a marina, one of these close by here, and I don't smell myself. I know I'm stinking. I know I'm smelling like that. But I walk into a marina, to get a dinghy fee, see if they have, if they knew of the campground. Actually, that's what I was going in there for. And I open the door, and as soon as I hit the AC, I can smell myself. I can smell that air really changed, I guess, my nose. I could smell what I was smelling like. And the girl was at the counter. I just stayed at the door. I didn't want her to smell me. She was, cute Florida girl. So I just stayed at, and she told me that where it was, because it was way the fuck back here, and I wasn't sure. I'm paddling in, and there's a small little channel through here. I mean, this is the channel. Boats are zooming through. I'm seeing sheep's head little baby sheep's head on all the little rocks, and as I'm paddling in, I'm like, damn, where is this place? And I was like, I think I stopped here and looked at this. That wasn't it. That wasn't a campground. I'm still paddling in further into a neighborhood. I'm like, is this place gonna be in here? And finally get all the way to the back. Here's the boat ramp. Here's the campground. This was all filled with RVs. It was mainly an RV spot. I stopped, I talked to the people, tell them what I was doing, and I camped right here, right by the boat, by the dock, right by the boat ramp. Stayed there for I think 2 or 3 days. Did all my laundry, sent pictures home, developed film, really did the full thing, the full pit stop, and really met some cool people. I'll start off the next podcast with the people I met here. Really got a chance to stop, slow down, talk to the locals, get some great fishing information, because from here I really wanted to fish. I wanted to slow the fuck down. I wanted to fish. I felt like I a little bit. I hit an accomplishment, hit a breaking point in this tour that I worried about the entire time planning for this tour was the Big Bend area. I was scared to death of it. I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know. I didn't have this access to look and see at campsites. All I had was this map and the charts, and it showed me how fucking shallow it was, which it made me even more worried. So I finished it. I had completed this big area that worried the shit out of me, and from here I chilled out and hung out with some really cool people. So I did it. I knocked that one out. That was a big deal. At this point, I'm already in 4 weeks. Definitely, I'm getting salty at this point. 2 weeks is usually the point. 10 days to 2 weeks is usually the point of the turnover, where it all becomes normal, where it just becomes like your everyday job. Touring is just your everyday job. You don't really miss, TV at that point. You don't miss the comforts at home after 2 weeks out there. It just becomes normal. And seeing people and being in civilization and riding a bike to the store is kind of crazy when you've been on the water for 4 weeks. So this is where I'm at here, and some great people here, and from here on out, I'm slowing down and fishing for a couple days anyway, and then I get the bug to go, because through here it's Tampa area. I go down through the coast. What is it? Coast of Kayak. Through all that tarpon area, and yes, I'm just getting into like the good parts of Florida, almost the parts of Florida where you think about Florida. The water color is changing. The fish are there, the mangroves, right? So that's where I was really stoked to be in, was the mangrove area. So the next time will be I think I'm gonna do from here down to the 10,000 Islands, which starts another segment. So this next segment will be the Tampa and Fort Myers area. Yeah. All right. So thank you guys for checking it out, and thanks to our sponsors, Yak Attack at yakattack.us, and my DVDs at kayakkevin.com, and check out the Bay Tour DVD, which a lot of the stuff in detail is kind of not this tour, but on my Bay Tour. Which the thing about touring is now, once I did this, I came back. Anytime I put my butt in the water, my butt in the water, I'm connected to all this water. You know, I know I can get in down here at the end of my street and go to Texas if I wanted to. It's a fact. You can do it. You know. So, but that's, you know, so that's, touring is all the same. I tour the same way I did on here as I did my Bay Tour, and the same way I camp out with just a different boat, but the same techniques is what I'm looking for when I'm doing that. Just now I have this to look at. Alright guys, thank you, and we'll see you next time. Later.